This is probably what you imagine a gamer is like. Well, it doesn't have to be like that. I'm talking about the Temu looking headset that he's wearing. The rage quit, well, that's all on you. Skill issue. But what happens when an audio brand tries to get into the gaming sphere of all things? Well then, you get something like this here, the EPZ G20. So let's see if it can live up to both the expectations of a gamer and an audiophile like me and you. But before all that, if you like the show, help the channel grow with a like and a sub. I'm really aiming for 5,000 subs by the end of summer and would really appreciate your help. Right out of the gate, you're getting an anime box art. This one of a cute white-haired girl wearing the G20. The anime theme continues inside with a nice little envelope carrying a character card and instruction manual, both having alternative versions of the waifu box art. We also get the G20 itself and one of its cables in a pretty generous amount of foam insert. Down on the bottom, you'll get the quote-unquote storage box containing the 3 sets of Akustune AT07 clone tips, a QC badge, and the Type-C DSP cable along with an adapter to full-size USB use with a PC. If this unboxing kinda looks familiar to the Q1 Pro that I reviewed a few weeks back, that's because it kind of is. You lose the carrying pouch in exchange for that DSP cable, which I think is a fair enough trade. So about those cables, one is a more conventional 3.5mm analog cable. It's got a dual braid, looks nice enough with the matte jack parts, and you get a full-featured 3-button remote mic clamp. Also there's the nice Velcro wrap as well. So here's how the standard headset mic on the EPZ G20 sounds. It's, a standard mic, My voice can be a little bit muffled because it's not sitting directly in front of my mouth, but I think you can take some basic calls on here just fine. Now here comes the special sauce. It's the DSP cable. It's using the same wires, but it is just one strand this time instead of a dual braid. And with this one, you can interface with the Walk Play app from EPZ to do all that equalizer adjustments to fit your music and gaming needs. There is also a similar 3-button remote mic clamp. However, this mic on here has been disabled in exchange for the removable and flexible gaming mic using this sort of flexible metal wire and connecting via 2-pin on the left side of the G20. This microphone is fairly light, so there's only like a minimal weight imbalance between the two sides. And here is how the gaming mic sounds like. Because it is sitting closer to my mouth, it's gonna pick up my voice a bit better, a bit more clear, a bit louder. I think your opponents and your teammates will be able to hear you well in the voice chat with this one. To compare, here is how my lavalier mic, the Boya M1S, sounds like. This used to be my previous microphone that I used for all the content produced on this channel. But of course you can see now that I've replaced it with this one, which is much better. I think the Boya M1S, it's a bit cleaner than the EPZ20 gaming mic. However, I think the gaming mic itself, it already picks up my voice quite well for in-game chat. Going to that Walk Play EQ software, both the PC version and the phone app will require you to make an account and actually log in. However, I will praise the app version because it asks for very minimal permissions. It only asks for the USB audio access every time you plug the dongle in, which, makes sense, I guess. And it asks for mic access when using the mic gain indicator tab. No unnecessary Bluetooth or location requirements, all that. And you get quite a few presets. Some of them actually have a very significant change to the sound. A few of them quite useful, others less so. We'll talk about that in a bit. The EQ adjustment is actually fairly versatile. You have, as you can see, up to 8 bands of frequency adjustment, and all of these can be from 20 to 20,000 kilohertz. So let's say I enter 4580, it can do that as well, no problem. And the Q curves, they range from 0.5 to 5. And then you also have a plus minus 10 decibel adjustment range. So you can do decimal numbers as well. So let's say I do minus 7.82. Let's add a 5. It will kind of round down or up to basically the first decimal point. Another example, let me do 0.26. It rounds up to 0.3. And there's even an internal DSP gain adjustment here so that you can avoid clipping the sound. And there's a tab here, custom, where you can make your own user created EQs based on like one of the presets, or you make it from a base by yourself. Press this button here to kind of share it into the online EQ library they have, which is over here. You have a bunch of different presets that are made by other users for different games, for different devices, all of that. Compared to something like the Moondrop Link suite of apps, I think the Walk Play app here, it's a lot less buggy. There's sometimes the occasional glitch, but very rare. And it works quite well and straightforward in my opinion. And I think this is where an audiophile centric brand like EPZ, they have an advantage over more standard gaming products, as they say, because they include a very strong PEQ implementation that I think both audio hobbyists can tinker with, whilst giving a breadth of very versatile presets both offline and online for gamers to just quickly dive in, apply one, and use it right away. For the G20 earpieces themselves, well, it shares a familiar similar shell and driver setup to the Q1 Pro. But this time, you'll get a fairly opaque, no-nonsense shade of gray. But you can also get the G20 in a cool baby blue or pastel pink for some extra personality. So the EPZ G20, it looks quite similar to the EPZ Q1 Pro, and that's because, well, it kind of is the Q1 Pro. They measure basically exactly the same on graphs, and they sound mostly the same in real life as well. So if you want a more detailed analysis on the sound, especially the 3.5mm default, check out my Q1 Pro review. TLDR, the G20, it follows that battle-tested Harman sound, with some modifications to make it into a very nice set for EDM and heavier genres. For this video though, I'm going to focus more on how the EQ presets on a DSP, it plays with that sound. Plugging it into my Surface Duo 2, I have a stock quote-unquote pure preset, which is the same as the sound from the 3.5mm version. The other 7 presets are more meaningful modifications to the sound, but I want to put the spotlight on the pop preset. What's better than a Harman-style V-shaped sound? Well, a W-shape, which keeps the vocals nicely shown in the mix too. It looks a little wonky on the graphs, but the pop preset actually works really nice with lighter genres of music, like From the Start performed by Luffy, restoring a bit of warmth at 500 Hz and reducing the intensity of the Pina region from the stock sound, increasing crispness with a 10 kHz boost. Now usually, I will boost the mid-bass regions up a bit too. Press Save to Device and the EQ adjustments will stick to the DSP chip, even when you transfer it to another phone or PC. Now if you want a more bass head bump-in experience, the bass preset does what it says on the tin. Just remember to lower the DAC gain slightly to avoid excessive clipping. Okay, let's transfer through to my GPD Win Mini. You can see that when I plug the G20 in, it remembers my saved EQ preset. And this pop preset works quite well for Need for Speed Most Wanted as well. since you're basically just playing a racing game, just vibing out to the OST. This preset makes the music have a more cinematic feel to them, and if I really want to emphasize the oomph from the car engine noises, I can push the sub and mid bass up some more, just like on the app version. This will work well with like stuff like Forza Horizon 2 if you play that. The cinema preset also plays nice with little indie games like Sable here, slightly emphasizing the ambiance and sound effects, also portraying the music in a flattering light. The game preset, it's a little more general. It won't work for everything though, despite the name. I think it's meant for esport and FPS titles, where positional sound is going to be a bit more preferred. I don't play these types of games much, but I do have Severed Steel. Also an FPS, but a bit more arcadey with fun slow motion gimmicks. And the G20, it crisps up the gun sounds, and the directional elements are marginally more noticeable. Now compare that to something like the Tangzu Bunny DSP. The G20 here, it's generally more V-shaped, and it works to emphasize sound effects in video games, and you can interact with the DSP suite on your PC. For the Bunny, you have to set the EQ in the phone app and then plug it into another Windows device. However, I'd say that the Bunny has a more extensive preset list, and it's tuned to each game rather than just a single game preset on the G20. Still though, I think that the mic on the G20 will win over the gamers who need voice chat capability. Putting gaming on a product is often a sign of gimmickry, adding like unnecessary price increases to a product, especially in the audio field. Fortunately, I think the EPZ G20 avoids these pitfalls, having the same modified Harman signature from its Q1 Pro sister model to please the audiophile camp, but adding in a DSP and a walk-play EQ software that is versatile, multi-platform, and it's non-intrusive in asking for usage permissions, although a login is required. The IEMs themselves, they aren't gonna be anything spectacular, but they perform decently, and you can use the DSP cable for your higher end gear if you so choose. For about $40 and including a pretty solid mic, the EPZ G20 I don't think is asking for much, whilst providing practical and useful features that apply to both the audio hobbyists and gamers alike. Thank you to EPZ for providing a sample unit for review. However, they do not have any creative or editorial control over my review, and all that I've shared are my honest thoughts.